Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea channel here on my YouTube channel. My name is, of course, John Campea. I am your host today, and thank you for joining me today for this special video looking at the most anticipated films of the upcoming year of 2018, this year that we're all looking forward to. Whole bunch of great movies on the docket that we've got coming up that we're excited about. Some obvious ones, some not so obvious ones. And we're going to talk about those things here today. Now, this is how this video is going to go. I'm going to list off for you my list of what I consider to be the 10, in order, most anticipated movies of 2018. Now, because all film is subjective, and of course, anticipation is also a subjective thing, your list is probably going to look different than my list. And that's totally cool. That's totally fine. Now, a couple things I should mention here. One, I'm just going to let you guys know I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to be coughing and sipping tea as I'm doing this video. But I'm going to give you guys my list of the 10 films that I consider to be the most anticipated, but then I'm going to throw it open to you guys, and I want you guys to throw out some movies that you think should be considered amongst the 10 most anticipated, and make sure you tell us a little bit why you think they're the 10 most anticipated as well. Two ways to get one on. One is, of course, use the Super Chat. The second way is to use Twitter. I'll go back and forth between the two as we're doing this video. Now, before we get into my top 10, I should say this. As I was going through the list of all the movies coming out this year, I came up with, I kid you not, no fewer than 35 movies that I would consider I am really looking forward to. Like minimum, 35 out of the films that I looked down on the list, minimum. Not just mildly interested, not just a little interested, but like really looking forward to. There was like 35 of them. Narrowing this down to just 10 has been an endeavor. It's been a little bit, it's been tricky coming down, bringing this all down to just 10. But bringing it down to just 10 is what I have done. So, now before I get to the 10, I want to mention 5 honorable mentions. Now, I could have had like 25 honorable mentions, but I'm bringing it down to 5 honorable mentions. Here are my 5 honorable mentions when it comes to most anticipated of 2018. I've got The Happy Time Murders. If you guys don't know what that is, this movie looks hilarious. It imagines the worlds where there's humans and Muppets. And there was this old Muppet or puppet TV show called Happy Time Gang. And apparently they all start getting murdered now. It sounds hilarious. Happy Time Murders is one of the ones that makes my honorable mention list. Creed 2 is another film that makes my honorable mention list. Now, if you guys know how much I like the first Creed, you might be wondering, why isn't Creed 2 on my top 10 list? Here's why. First, they said they were going to do it. And then we find out the director wasn't coming back to do it. But that was okay, because Sylvester Stallone, who has directed all the best Rocky movies, was coming on to direct Creed 2. Well, just recently they announced that Sylvester Stallone has now stepped down as the director. And they've got this guy whose work I'm not really familiar with. So I'm still really looking forward to Creed 2, but Creed 2 is no longer on my top 10 list. I'm looking forward to it, but it's no longer on my top 10 list. The other honorable mentions are Mission Impossible 6. I can't wait to see that. Mary, Queen of Scots. That's got 2 actresses in it that are probably both going to be nominated for Best Actress this year. Saoirse Ronan and Margot Robbie. They both star in it. And I'm a little bit of a sucker for these period piece movies. So I'm really looking forward to Mary, Queen of Scots. And the other honorable mention thing here is A Quiet Place. And I'm not gonna lie to you. A Quiet Place nearly made my top 10 list. Now, I remember I saw the first trailer, and I thought the first trailer for A Quiet Place was interesting, but the more I watch it, and the more I read about it, and the more I'm thinking about it, the more and more I'm getting into the idea of this movie. I'm actually quite excited about it. No, I do not believe A Quiet Place is the actual title for Cloverfield 3, as is the rumor out there right now. I don't believe that's the case, but you got John Krasinski in there, you got Emily Blunt in there. To me, it just looks and sounds fabulous, and it almost made my top 10. So once again, my honorable mentions for 10 most anticipated films of 2018 list is this. Happy Time Murders, Creed 2, Mission Impossible 6, Mary, Queen of Scots, and A Quiet Place. These are the ones I have as my honorable mentions. So, with that out of the way, let's now actually get into the list. I'm going to give it to you in order here. And again, I understand that my list is going to look different from yours, and just because I'm saying these are my most anticipated, that's not me necessarily saying that I think these are going to be the best movies of the year. These are just the ones I'm really looking forward to the most. Okay, let's bring up the list. Here it is. my top 10 most anticipated of 2018, and it looks like this. In number 10 is If Beale Street Could Talk. Number 9 is Sicario 2 Soldado. Number 8 is Ready Player One. Number 7 is The Incredibles 2. Number 6, Solo, a Star Wars story. Number 5, First Man. Number 4, Black Panther. Number 3, Deadpool 2. Number 2, Widows. And my number 1 most anticipated movie of the year is Avengers Infinity War. This is my top 10 list of the ones I am most looking forward to. Again, not necessarily saying these will be the 10 best movies of the year, but if I'm being honest and I'm gauging my excitement level for getting out to watch these movies, these are the ones that I'm most looking forward to. Now, if you're not familiar, there's a couple on here that you may not be familiar with. One of them is If Beale Street Could Talk. This looks and sounds amazing. If Beale Street Could Talk is the next directorial film by Barry Jenkins, who directed Moonlight, the film that won Best Picture at the Academy Awards last year. This sounds amazing. After seeing what he did with Moonlight and how well he handles narrative and storytelling, I was completely on board with this, and I'm very excited about it. Sicario 2, you guys are very familiar with it. Ready Player One, obviously Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time. I'll tell you what, Ready Player One was initially going to probably be on my honorable mentions list. Pardon me, but after I saw The Post, it reminded me, oh yeah, Steven Spielberg's like the best filmmaker that's ever lived. And it pumped it up a little bit more to be on my top 10 list. So after Ready Player One, Incredibles 2, obviously one we've been waiting for a long time. Number 6 might surprise some of you. Solo, a Star Wars story. Because you guys know that I am a massive Star Wars nerd. So you'd think it might even compete for the number 1 spot on my list. But, you know, I'm going to be honest. I was never asking for a standalone Star Wars movie on Han Solo. I certainly don't like the idea of going back to tell old stories. I like the idea of moving forward. I'm thrilled that Ron Howard is there, but all the drama surrounding Lord and Miller and all that kind of stuff. So look, Solo, a Star Wars story, it's a Star Wars movie. So look, one way or the other, it's going to be on my list. So there it is. It's on my list. But I couldn't put it any higher than number 6 because, to be honest, I'm looking forward to these other 5 movies even more than it. But Solo, Star Wars story is on my list. All right. Going into number 5 is First Man. If you're not familiar with this one, this is from director Damien Chazelle, who just did La La Land. And it looks amazing. It's the look at Neil Armstrong, the astronaut, and the first guy to walk on the moon and all that kind of stuff. It's got Claire Foy from The Crown, John Bernthal, Ryan Gosling, Pablo Schreiber, Jason Clarke, Kyle Chandler, Corey Stoll. I mean, it's got an incredible cast with a director who just won the Academy Award for Best Director at the Academy Awards with La La Land. So for those reasons, First Man ends up in my number 5 spot. Number 4, Black Panther. You know what? I'm getting more and more excited for this movie. I was always excited for it. The trailers have been good. The trailers have been enough there to give you the sense of the story, get you pumped up for it, and all that kind of jazz. But, the more time that passes, the more I'm finding I'm getting even more and more excited for it. So Black Panther jumps all the way up for me to my number 4 spot. Number 3 is Deadpool 2. Merc with the Mouth. The first Deadpool was so outrageously entertaining. I just don't know how to not have Deadpool rank this high on my list. It's got to rank this high on my list. So good. Number 2, Widows. Again, for some of you who may not have heard of this, pardon me, this is from director Steve McQueen, who of course did 13 Years a Slave. It's amazing. And this story of Widows sounds incredible. It's these 4 dudes who try to pull off this heist, and they all get killed doing it. And now their widows all have to finish the job. Sounds amazing. Steve McQueen's directing it. When you run down the cast, Elizabeth Debicki, she's getting hot right now. John Bernthal again, he was in that other one as well. Liam Neeson, Colin Farrell, Michelle Rodriguez, Robert Duvall, Viola Davis, on and on and on. The director, the story, the cast. Widows is actually my number 2 most anticipated film of the year. And my number 1 most anticipated film of the year, and I'm sure this is probably the same for a lot of you guys as well, is Avengers Infinity War. So there you have it, guys. My top 10 most thing. Now, somebody in the chat board is saying, no DC movies? Well, there's only one DC movie coming out this year, and that's Aquaman. And I'm sorry, but Aquaman's not replacing any of the 10 movies that I have on this list. I'm looking forward to Aquaman. Like I said, there are like 35 movies that I am really looking forward to this year. And it was really tough for me to narrow it down to 10. But again, I feel very comfortable with this list. I'm going to bring it up again. And hopefully a couple of these movies might be ones that you guys haven't heard of yet. And now you can put these on your radar. If Beale Street Could Talk, at number 9, Sicario 2, Soldado. At number 8, Ready Player One. At number 7, The Incredibles 2. At number 6, Solo, A Star Wars Story. At number 5, First Man. At number 4, Black Panther. At number 3, Deadpool 2. At number 2, Widows. And my number 1 most anticipated film of 2018 list is Avengers Infinity War. So, I told you I was going to be coughing a lot today. Sorry, guys. So with that out of the way, I now want to hear from you guys. What films are you really excited about that I have on that list? Were there any films on the list there that you hadn't heard of yet? And what films maybe did I not mention that you think deserves to have a place on the most anticipated list? I'm going to start things off by going over to the Super Chat right now. Chris Warden is writing, hey, John, at your current rate of growth, I'm guessing you'll likely hit 200,000 subscribers by July of August. I hope you do a big celebration. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Steve C20 saying, can I get a good look at your mug again? This is my mom's coffee mug. I love it. My mom's coffee mug. I dig it. Okay. Luis Blanco writes, it's Solo for me. Very, very curious how it'll go. I mean, and you're not wrong about that. I think even though I have some trepidation about Solo, A Star Wars Story, I'm fascinated. And I think there are a lot of people who are fascinated to see how this is going to turn out. I mean, with all the drama with Lord and Miller, and then you got Ron Howard, like just one of the great directors of our time, comes in to pick up the pieces. He does extensive reshooting. Apparently, they're still sticking with their May release date. I think a lot of people are very, very curious to see what's going to happen and what's going to transpire with Solo, A Star Wars Story. All right. I am trying to go to Twitter. Here we go. Let's see. This first one, if I can get this thing to pop up here and work with me. Okay, this first one here. This first tweet comes to us from, let's see here. D before B writes, John, Venom, because of the good cast and the story seems interesting. Venom is definitely one of those movies. I know a lot of people are crapping on the whole idea of the Venom movie. For me, I'm fascinated by it. You're right. They have an incredible cast. The cast is top-notch. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this. But again, it's not that I'm not looking forward to it. I am. I'm looking forward to Venom very much. But there's just too many other good films that I'm very excited about seeing that made my list. But Venom, I think you're not going to be the only one to mention Venom on your list. Let's see. This one comes to us from Jordan and Solis, who writes, John, X-Men Dark Phoenix is one of my most anticipated, great cast and great storyline. And I'm sure you're not alone. I think there's a lot of people that are very excited about X-Men Dark Phoenix. The one thing that knocks it down off my top 10 most anticipated, and I'm looking forward to it, I am. But the thing that knocks it down off the list for me is the fact that this is basically the X-Men Apocalypse cast, and I was not big on X-Men Apocalypse. And to be honest, for many of them, I wasn't really big on the cast and how they did in X-Men Apocalypse. So it's an X-Men movie. I'm excited. I generally like the cast, but if X-Men Apocalypse had been a bit better, then we might see X-Men Dark Phoenix on my either honorable mention list or maybe even the top 10. But those are the reasons I don't have it on mine. But I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure a bunch of people like you also have it on their top 10 list. Okay, we've had a few more super chats come in here. Let's jump over to these. This next one says, ZRJro writes, you hear about Snyder's Cut protest at WB Studios? No, but we're here to talk about the most anticipated films list right now. Let's see. Scott Mick just puts in a super chat. Thank you, Scott. Elicito0685 says, what about Dark Phoenix? Well, great minds. Again, I'm sure there are a bunch of you that will have Dark Phoenix on your top 10 list. Again, for me, if I'm being honest, and you guys all know how much of a special place in my heart I have for the X-Men films. But if I'm being honest, that X-Men Apocalypse knocked it down on the list. So I'm looking forward to it, just not on my top list. Let's see. Next one comes to us from, where did it go? Wreck-It Ralph 2. Wreck-It Ralph 2 is one that I'm really looking forward to. That's another one that would be high up there on my list. Let's see. Steven C20 writes, no Aquaman. Maybe a trailer would have helped. No. Aquaman. Look, I'm looking forward to Aquaman. I was one of the guys who cheered the loudest when they cast Jason Momoa. But I'm sorry. You compare Aquaman to if Beale Street Could Talk or Sicario 2 or Widows or First Man or Avengers Infinity War or Incredibles 2. Like, I get it. All of our lists are subjective, but there was just no way it was going to get on my list. I don't even think a trailer would have changed that. And again, I quite like Justice League, but I didn't trip over myself, love Justice League. You know what I mean? I liked it very much. I saw it a bunch of times in theaters. I gave it a positive review, but I wasn't losing my mind for it. And for those reasons, the fact that it's still a year away, and there's just too many other films that look like they're going to be a lot better than Aquaman. Like, you notice too that like Ant-Man and the Wasp isn't on there either. And I like Ant-Man very much. I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. But Ant-Man and Aquaman, both for me, kind of fall into those categories that I'm looking forward to seeing them, but they don't quite have a place for me on my top 10. But that's just my list. I know a lot of you guys will feel differently. Let's see. This one, Infinity War is my pick 2. I think it will eclipse the first Avengers film at the box office. Also, I don't think it'll eclipse the first Avengers at the box office. I don't think it'll cross 2 billion. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it's going to cross 2 billion. Although I am psychotically looking forward to it. But we'll just see how that all turns out. Ben Rayner writes, Ant-Man and the Wasp for me. Again, that was a tough one for me to not put on my list. Because I love that first Ant-Man so much. And I know Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be the first movie after Infinity War. So it was tough for me not to put it on that list. But again, if I was just being honest with myself, my anticipation level for Ant-Man, Aquaman, a couple of like X-Men stuff didn't quite come up to the level of my anticipation for those other ones. Let's see. Albert Gonzalez writes, watched Ant-Man again, loved it more now than before, very excited for the sequel, me too. I love that first Ant-Man movie. I think it's incredible. And I'm very excited to see what they do as a follow-up to that. All right. Chris Warden writes, Infinity War is my top pick 2. I think it will eclipse the first event. Oh, we already kind of got to that one. Thank you. Let's see. Ryan Albanese writes, excited for the Isle of Dogs. I am excited for Isle of Dogs. I think it looks really cool. It's a very different style. Not getting onto my top 10 most anticipated list, but I do think it looks really fresh, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Dirk Walker writes, oh, I forgot to bring these lists back up here. Dirk Walker writes, Aquaman is around number 5 on my list. DC has had a long time to work and focus on it. Curious if it'll be successful and what happens next. Yeah, like, I think there's definitely a lot of intrigue surrounding the Aquaman project. How's it going to turn out? How well are they going to be able to do with it? We'll have to see how that all turns out. Let's see. James Hoffman writes, most anticipated movie is Avengers, but hype is so high. Are you worried movie cannot meet the hype? Well, to be honest with you, James, you got to be worried about that with any movie that gets a lot of hype. I'm worried about that for Deadpool 2, for example, because, I mean, expectations, my own included, are so sky high for this movie. It's nuts. Avengers Infinity War, sky high. Widows, for me, is becoming a movie that I'm losing my mind over that I can't wait to see. So yeah, super high expectations, super high hype is always a pitfall. It can always be dangerous if you're not careful. So we're just going to have to see how much hype it gets the closer we get to its release. Let's see. Dim Sumo 5 writes, the 1517 to Paris. Okay. The 1517 to Paris, that's the new Clint Eastwood movie that he's directing. And he did something very interesting in the sense that he's actually hired the real people to play themselves in the movie. Because it's based on a true story. And he hired the real people to play themselves. That's really interesting. That's something cool that a director like Eastwood, who's nearing the end of his career, he can afford the luxury of experimenting with something like that. Honest with you, a movie that has its leads that aren't even professional actors, that knocks it down off my list. So I don't like the decision to put non-actors in the lead roles. I'm never comfortable with that. I mean, it's interesting. It'll be cool to see how it kind of plays out, but it can't be on my list for those reasons. Scott and Mick, get well soon, John. Yeah, I hope so. My voice is just stupid right now. A Star is Born, Bradley Cooper directing, and Lady Gaga. I can't get too excited about Bradley Cooper directing since I have nothing to base being excited about him directing on. But it's definitely one of those films that's on my radar. Like, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Sam Fisher writes, for me, Black Panther is more anticipated than Infinity War. I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people might consider that. Big John O2 writes, where are you on Annihilation from Alex Garland? That's one of those films that I'm really excited about. But I'm going to be honest with you. And I've mentioned this on the John Campea show. The trailers aren't doing it for me right now. Like, I'm excited because it's Alex doing it. And we know Alex's track record. So on that basis alone, I'm excited. But while a lot of people have been very stoked about the trailers, I'll be honest with you, the trailers haven't done much for me. To be honest, I think they're pretty paint-by-numbers trailers. And I know a lot of you guys are probably screaming at me right now because you love the trailers. That's great. That's wonderful. I celebrate that. But really looking forward to it. But the trailers being mediocre to me is what's keeping it from being on my most anticipated list. But who knows? It could be like the best movie of the year. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Tony Lamar just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Tony. DimSumo05 writes, Fantastic Beasts 2. Looking forward to it. The thing is, I saw the first one, and I liked it. I like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I thought it was a good, solid, entertaining movie. But it wasn't good enough that makes me drooling at the mouth to line up to see the second one. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, one of those 35 films that I'm really looking forward to, but it doesn't quite come anywhere near my top 10 list, mostly because I liked the first one, didn't blow my socks off. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Alex Donovan writes, how about New Mutants? Looking forward to that. I think that I'm very curious about New Mutants. Number one, because it's an X-Men universe film. But number two, because they seem to be taking that low-budget indie horror approach to it, which I think could be a total mess. Could be a total mess, them doing that. But it could also be amazing. Fox had been taking a lot of great chances with their properties. Deadpool, they rolled the dice on. Logan, they rolled the dice on. Clearly, they're rolling the dice on New Mutants. Again, not enough to get into my top 10, but another film I'm really looking forward to this year. Let's see. Kevin Bennett writes, love you, brother. Get well. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate that, man. Tony Lamar sends in a super chat. Noah Molesky writes, do you think that the solo Bumblebee movie will be better than The Last Night? Oh, God, it better be. I mean, I don't know how it can't. I honestly, I don't know how you make a movie worse than The Last Night. The Last Night has to be in my top 10 worst major studio films ever made. It's just, so, look, you got the director of Kubo and the Two Strings directing it, right? So, instantly, you've taken a step up with the director. So, I feel very confident that Bumblebee will be better than Transformers Last Night. To me, the question is, will Bumblebee be as good as the first Transformers movie? Because I quite like the first Transformers movie. Will it be as good as that? We'll have to wait and see. And last two questions, then we'll call it a day here, guys. Last two questions, or messages come in here, or maybe three. Albert Gonzalez Jr. writes, thoughts on animated Spider-Man movie? Not excited about it. I don't know why. I thought the trailer was dumb. I know everybody was like, did you see that animated Spider-Man trailer? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood. I didn't like the trailer. And I didn't like the style they were going for. So I have no anticipation for it. I'm not pessimistic about it. I'm not saying that the Spider-Man animated film is going to be bad, not at all. But if I'm going to be honest with you, which movies get my engines revving? That Spider-Man animated one isn't one of them. So there's that. Guru Laima writes, what will be the big surprise of 2018? Venom? I think Venom is poised to be the big surprise. Why would I say Venom? For two reasons. Number one, they've got a lot of things going for them. They have some very good talent both behind and in front of the camera attached. So that's good. Number two, it's gotten a lot of attention. But number three, the reason I think Venom is poised to be the surprise hit of 2018 is because there are so many people who think it's going to be garbage. When you have a movie that many people are just assuming is going to be garbage, then you're positioned pretty well to surprise a lot of people. So I'm not saying Venom is going to be the surprise hit of 2018, but if any movie is really positioned to be the surprise hit of 2018, I think it's Venom. Venom's probably that movie. Max Renwick writes, I love war and military movies. Any this year? My head's saying yes, there is. I have to think about it. I have to sit down and go through the list. I can't remember off the top of my head. Sam Fisher, Mortal Engines, looking forward to it. I thought the initial trailer was clever. I thought it did the job for an announcement trailer at any rate, and we'll see how that goes. And Alex Donovan puts in a super chat just saying hello. Appreciate that, Alex. All right, guys. Well, just to recap one last time before my voice totally gives out. My number 10 most anticipated movie of the year, If Beale Street Could Talk. Number 9, Sicario 2 Soldado. Number 8, Ready Player One. Number 7, The Incredibles 2. Number 6, Solo, A Star Wars Story. Number 5, First Man. Number 4, Black Panther. Number 3, Deadpool 2. Number 2, Widows. And my number 1 most anticipated movie of the year is Avengers Infinity War. And just for good measure, my 5 honorable mention spots go to A Quiet Place, Mary, Queen of Scots, Mission Impossible 6, Creed 2, and The Happy Time Murders. Well, the important thing, though, here, guys, is what is your top 10 most anticipated films of the year list? Jump down into the comments section and leave your top 10 list for everybody to read, and then comment and share and discuss amongst yourselves as well. Hey, guys, while you're here, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the thumbs up button. Leave a comment below. Follow me on social media, simply at John Campea. And while you're at it, guys, check out my Patreon page. See if being one of my Patreon supporters is something you'd like to become. If you do, awesome. If not, no problem at all. I'm just glad you're a film fan with me. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.